Tonight we're talking about the cedi, the Ghana cedis, that is, and we're talking about how to manage the slump in its value. Basically, say that it has lost about 8% or so in the first quarter of 2012, and that was a similar case in the first quarter of 2011. So it seems to have become a trend over the last 2 years. We know that the central bank has been talking about doing something about it. We hear that there's been so much pumping of US dollars into the Ghanaian economy, but some say it hasn't seemed to have resulted in all that we've been seeking. Indeed, we've also been talking about the policy rate being pushed up by some basis points, 200 basis points or so, has not been able to arrest the situation that we are talking about. There's been so much issue about trade, because of course the currency always has an effect on what happens in trade, whether domestically or internationally, because a lot of the things that you and I go to the open markets to buy are dollar rated. In fact, on the local terrain as well, even issues such as rent, which is houses that belong to people ordinarily in the country, and all of that, they still charge it in dollars. If you have to purchase a vehicle, if you go and check the price in January and you go back in July because you've been planning for it, you'll be surprised that the price will not be the same. So it seems to have an effect on everything that is happening. And the question again is that in Europe, where of course we've been talking, they deal largely in the euro, and the UK is still in this British pound, but the US currency, the US dollar, is the international meeting point for trade. And therefore the US dollar still has a place in all that happens in all of this. So basically, how is this affecting us on the terrain? How is it affecting businesses of all shades in the country? Are we able to do anything about it, or is absolutely a matter for government to deal with? Or indeed, people in business can all talk about this? And that's the issue we are talking about. And so if you have a view on the matter, send it to 1760 across all mobile networks by text. It will cost you 30 pesos to do so. Facebook.com/multi-TV-world is our address on Facebook, or Facebook.com/multi-TV. PM Express is also exclusive to the show, and you can send a message there as well, and we'll be happy to pick it. In the studio with us tonight, on my immediate left, George Kweku Ofori is the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Thank you for coming, sir. And from the far end of the table, Samuel Kofi Ampa is head of research, Gold Coast Securities. Thank you.
Yes, Nick.
And we'll be joined on the phone line sometime during the show by Seth Chum Akwabwa, who is Executive Secretary of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, to also throw or shed some light on the issues at stake. Let me begin with you, Samuel, because you had research and you do all these matters. What are the what do you see? Basically, we've been talking about the Ghana cedi. I had to do a Ghana cedi transaction 2 days ago because I was required, I couldn't do anything about it, to make some payments in US dollars. So I had to go to the bank to get something paid for. And I didn't know that was what was happening. I was told it was 1.802 by my bank. And we multiplied that by something, and it had actually completely shocked me, because last time I did that payment in Ghana cedis, really, the difference was almost 50% more or so.
That's right.
And so the one who was collecting the fee, said, well, that's the reason we peg our business in dollar, to just make sure that we can deal with these issues as and when they arise. What's happening? What's the cause of all this?
Well, let me say that it is very worrying. I mean, the rate at which the cedi has depreciated for the past 2 years. In 2010, the cedi performed creditably well, but the depreciation actually started in 2011, and it has followed through to this year and to the first quarter of this year. And interestingly, it seems that nothing is being done, but in actual fact, something is being done.
Right.
But it's just that perhaps what is being done is not meeting exactly what the market demand is. Okay. Now, I want us to look at statistical figures to really show exactly what the position of the rate of depreciation is. If we look at the rate of depreciation for the dollar against the cedi, and mind you that the rate of depreciation to the cedi is against the dollar, the pounds, the euro, and then the CFA. I mean, basically all these 4 major trading currencies that we have in the country is experiencing some rate of depreciation. And it is very important to note in this program that though we use the dollar most often in our trading, it's been pegged like that. The pound sterling has also depreciated heavily in the past from 2011 to the first quarter of 2012. And I want to give you the figures as it is. I mean, first of all, let's look at the 2011 first quarter depreciation of the cedi. To the dollar, it depreciated was negative 4.33. That's it depreciated 4%, about 4%. And to the pound, it depreciated about 8.4%.
So your point is that it has depreciated against the pound, or that the pound has depreciated? Because you said the pound had depreciated.
No, the cedi has depreciated against.
Okay. So I know that's what you meant, but I really wanted to get the follow through to.
The cedi has depreciated over 8.4%
against the British pound.
Against the British pound.
Okay.
And equally depreciated about 10.73% to the euro in the first quarter of 2011.
Okay.
If you look at the second quarter of 2011, as the US dollar was depreciating about 3.5%, the pound was depreciating about 13%. The euro was depreciating, the cedi was depreciating against the euro, about 12.32%.
Okay.
And then it follows through to the third quarter when the US dollar was depreciating about 5% to the dollar. The cedi was depreciating about 5% to the pound sterling, and to the euro about 6.58%. It ended, like I said earlier on, it ended the year in 2010 with a great appreciation, about 1.69. That's a holistic appreciation of 1.69%.
Okay.
To all the four major trading currencies, as the euro, the dollar, the pound sterling, and the CFA.
Okay.
But however, if you look at figures for the first quarter of 2012, and that is what I want us to look at immediately, that in the first quarter of 2012, the cedi depreciated against the dollar. That's about 9.25%.
Okay.
That is the first quarter. And then against the pound, that's 13.34%. Against the euro, about 12.80%. And then it follows. I mean, to the CFA, it did about 11.35%.
Okay.
So it shows the magnitude of depreciation of the cedi against the four major trading currencies that we have in the country. And most often, like I said earlier on, we place so much emphasis on the dollar because, of course, we use the dollar. I mean, I don't want to say we are a dollarized country.
That's what we become, really.
Yes, but we place so
facts are facts.
That's right. And that is what is happening currently. And if you look at all the statistical figures, I mean, it is not strange. For example, when Standard Chartered Bank came out with a release, with an interview from Bloomberg.
Okay, I'll take that pretty soon. But we have Seth Chum Akwabwa on the line. I have to apologize to you. Sometimes I think it's only fair that when I ask you a first question, I allow you to finish it before we introduce people on the telephone line. But somehow we have somebody on the telephone line already. So let's go to Seth Chum Akwabwa, Executive Secretary of the AGI, and say good evening to you, sir. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Thank you very much for joining us. How is the Association of Ghana Industry dealing with the slump in the Ghana cedi?
Well, let me say that we are not happy with the depreciation of the cedi because it has serious implications on business operations. As you know, anytime the cedi depreciates, policy rate is likely to go up. And when you have the policy rate going up, it impacts on the interest rate. And high cost of credit has been a major problem of industries in Ghana for some time now. And AGI has always been talking about it. And therefore, whenever we have depreciation of the cedi, with its consequent effect of higher policy rate and subsequently higher interest rate, then that is of concern to industry. So indeed, it's a challenge. And you recall that this year in particular, we've had a significant depreciation of the cedi. We would have wished that there's stability as was experienced in recent times. But unfortunately, this is not what is happening. And we wish that going ahead, we wouldn't have too much depreciation of the cedi so people can plan ahead. You know, anytime there's a depreciation, companies that have imported raw material, the manufacturing companies in particular that have imported raw materials, by the time you finish the production process, send it to the market and get your money back, we need more CDs to be able to pay for the same dollar which was used in importing the raw material. So it puts you in a very difficult situation, and the industries are not very comfortable when you have depreciation of the city. Again, it doesn't also help planning. When you have to plan ahead, you don't know how the projections are going to be for the next few months or so. It's not a very comfortable situation for us.
So really, what do you expect to be done? I have an article before me from Joy Business, where your president, Nana Afari, said that the AGI basically was not happy with the conditions or the strategies being used at this moment to deal with the matter, and it's actually calling for the use of other long-term measures in dealing with the excess CD circulation. Which other measures do you want to see government employ beside the policy rates that we have all spoken about, and also the attempt to mop up excess liquidity?
Measures are good, but they are more short-term measures. That's why the president of AGI is saying, let's look at long-term measures. And the long-term measures, if you look at the root cause of the depreciation, it's more because there's so much import of goods into the country. If you go to our markets today, large number of the products we are consuming in this country are being imported. And therefore, there's always pressure on the city because you need more of the foreign currency to be able to import. And that is why we are having this depreciation.
But how do we deal with that?
The long-term measure is to look at manufacturing sector critically and make sure that we put in the policies and the measures support the production in the local of local products. So we need to really support the local industries to be competitive in the local environment so that we reduce the imports. And once we reduce the imports, the pressure on your city will come down. So the long-term measures we're saying is that what is it that we need to do to be able to improve the industrial sector? Let the manufacturing sector in particular contribute a lot more to GDP so that we don't over-import as we are experiencing today.
Are there any other measures beyond the long-term measure of making sure that industries are put in place, up and running? A matter we have been speaking about for a very long time, before independence, through independence, and to date. And I'm sure if I compared my O-level economics notes to that of my father, who is passed on, may he rest in peace, it's the same. And that all those principles were always mentioned: location of industry, localization of industry, and all that. And we are passed, we are given ticks because we have 5 points and you have 10 over 10. We come out with grade 1 in O-level, grade A in A-level, etc. And nothing changes. What really should we be doing?
Well, there's a lot we can do to improve local production. All the other measures, as I said, the measures that have been taken now by Bank of Ghana is good, but they are short-term and they are not sustainable. The only sustainable way is to increase local production. And the fact that it may not have worked very well in recent past does not mean it will not work in the future. If you look at it, previously we were producing quite a lot. Years ago when some of us were even very young or were not born, we were even told that even vehicles were being assembled in the country. If you look at our factories today, there have been a lot of closure of some of these factories. The textile companies, for example, years ago they were employing over 20,000 people. Now they are not employing even up to 3,000. So it means that we have not really done well in manufacturing. If you look at the past 4 years or so, manufacturing has never experienced more than 2% growth rate. So really, we need to look at the long-term measure. And the long-term measure, which is sustainable, is improving manufacturing. And there are really measures we can do, because there are examples to cite from different countries. If you go to India, if you go to China, at a certain point, they were all not having a massive production of goods and services. They were important as well, but they've instituted some measures which have helped the situation. So there is a lot we can do. Look at the industrial policy that has been launched by Ministry of Trade and Industry. Read it carefully, and you see that there are a lot of interesting policies that have been earmarked for implementation. If you're able to implement it very well, we can improve local production. So it's possible.
Mr. Seth Chumakwabo, I have to say a big thank you to you for joining us tonight and for sharing some insights with us. Enjoy the rest of your evening, sir.
Thank you very much.
You were making a point, and I'm sure you'll be concluding on that, so I can get his view as well. There's some allusions to Standard Chartered Bank.
Yes, let me quickly end by this saying that since the redenomination of the city in 2007, currently the city has lost about 70%, around about 70% of its value.
I bought a car in 2008. At the time, the Ghana cedi had more value than the US dollar. It was about 90 something. Yeah, I remember 97, 96 Ghana cedis to a US dollar. So that was in 2008.
That's right.
I remember that very well.
So that is how far we've come with the rate of depreciation of the cedi to the dollar, and that makes the analyst very worried as to why we've lost. But we'll get into the details as to what is the performance of Ghana's cedi depreciation to the other to other countries as compared by the Standard Chartered Bank and some other institutions.
Let me bring George into the discussion. For you, Ghana Union of Traders Association, really, you are the people down there on the ground in the market doing the pushing trade, so to speak. What really are the effects of the slumping cedi on your activities?
Yes, thank you very much. I think my other panelists have actually come out to say that it's a very difficult situation and it's a very difficult problem confronting our business, I must say. Because in effect, it is throwing a lot of people out of business as a result of the depreciation of the cedi. And just like we discussing initially in the year 2011, 10 to 11, you realize that there was a stability of the cedi to the dollar for some 8 to 9 months thereabout. And we might be asking ourselves questions that why is it at this time around things are changing the way it is at the moment? Is it because we have to lay the problem to the doorstep of the management of the fiscal policy on the doorstep of the government, i.e. the BOG, or what? Because we keep on hearing that the foreign currencies are being injected into the economy by the Bank of Ghana as a resolve to the problems. But what do we see all the time? And practically, what is actually happening down there, as you rightly put it, is that let's put it, or let's do some sort of analysis in terms of mathematics. Yeah, when the dollar was, the cedi was about 1.4 to the dollar. Yeah, that was about some 9 months or a year ago.
Yeah.
Assuming if you're dealing with a partner, which normally traders or businessmen do with their partners outside, the business that we are doing is always on credit basis. So for instance, assuming that if you import an item on a credit basis from your partner to the tune of about 100,000 US American dollars, at that time you're talking about 1.4 billion old Ghana cedis or 140,000 new Ghana cedis.
That's right.
And with the present situation, when I was coming, because of this program, I had to, veer into one of these Forest Bureau shops to find out the cost of the cedi to the dollar, and it's 1.84.
Wow.
1.84, meaning that if by that time you were not able to pay your creditor, which was used to be 140 billion or 140,000 Ghana cedis at that time, today you are going to, in any case, you are owing the person 100,000 US American dollars. So he is taking $100,000, nothing more, nothing less.
Right.
But in this circumstance, it means you are going to cough up more, and the difference, by calculation, might be 140 minus 184, a difference of 44,000.
That's right.
Within this short
and that
period.
is assuming that there is no interest.
Yes, assuming that there's no interest. So where are you going to cough this 44,000 Ghana cedis or 440 million old cedis to make sure that you are able to, liquidate your debt?
Right.
So this is the problem that traders are confronted, and that, as you rightly said, it is outside the interest rate, assuming if the person are going to contract a loan or overdraft from the bank.
Right.
That is quite separate from what we are talking about now. And so if we hear always from government upon government that the private sector is an engine of growth, is it really the engine of growth that we're talking about? Or is it a matter of we getting out of business? Because in the, at this instance, that is what is actually happening down there. And I can tell you, Sam, a lot of people's businesses have collapsed. Others are on the way, but others have already collapsed as a result of this little calculation that I did for you. You see, so it's a very, very, very serious situation that in the office, I cannot sit in the office without a single complaint coming from.
Let me stay with you quickly for good reason. Who make up the union of traders so we get a better picture of what you're talking about, the problems you see in your office, etc.? Who are the kinds of people? Where are they located? What do they trade in? Well, so people can really identify with the picture you're painting.
Yeah. The GUTA or the Ghana Union of Traders Association is an umbrella association for sector associations. Some of it are the Spare Parts Dealers Association. Okay. That is the Ghana Spare Parts Dealers Association. Okay. Ghana Electrical Dealers Association, GIDA, Electronics. Or Kaishi traders. In such instances, when you go to Kajetia, you might not find Okashi, but you might find Swami Magazine, Spare Parts Dealers Association. When you go to Tamale, we have the Progressive Traders Association of GUTA, and a host of about 25 sector associations. Some of these associations are national in scope. Others are localized in scope. Because those who sell hardware in Kantamanto, you cannot call them KJT, so when you go to Kumasi, you cannot use the same name for them. So we have some localized associations, all under the umbrella organization of GUTA. And when Tweneboa, my colleague from JEGI, was making his presentation, he did mention about imports. And as soon as he did that, at least I sat back and asked myself, hey, am I being brought into the picture? Because normally, it is the importers who are always, blamed as a result of some of these problems. But in effect, that is not the case, and that's not the situation.
Why?
I'm telling you,
because we've heard this for a long time. It's analysis we keep hearing from our men of light, so to speak, in these matters, who know these issues. Keep telling us as import. And if we could curtail that, then perhaps our CD will get enough rest. Because it's always a battle against the CD and the US dollar. And if the CD is the weaker currency, and you're always drawing the power of the dollar into our territory, then what do you expect to happen to this?
Yes, I mean, what
layman analysis, but I think that's what people can identify.
Yes, what is happening in terms of the imports that we're talking about is said that, let's take it from this angle, that number one, all the products that are being manufactured by the local industries are being procured and sold by our members. So one way or the other, it's just like production chain, of which we are also part of it. The second aspect of the import that he did mention was that, let's get back a bit. Prior to the invasion of foreigners into the retail sector, was the situation like this? It wasn't.
Now, weren't your members still importing spare parts, brake parts, spark plugs, coils, alloy wheels, anything? Weren't all those coming from outside because we don't manufacture them here?
Some I agree with you 100%. But what I'm trying to say is that the quantum of imports prior to the invasion, the quantum of import prior to the invasion of the foreigners into the retail sector wasn't like the way we are seeing now. So the way we are seeing now with the depreciation in terms of the percentage means that there have been a lot of imports. And where are these imports coming? It is because when you pick on the foreigners who have invaded our economy, if a foreigner could bring in about 200 or 300 containers in a year, the indigent could afford to bring in only about 20 containers for the whole year.
So your point is, import may be blamed for this. However, it is not caused by locals.
That's it.
But caused by foreigners.
Because, yes.
But the bottom line is still imports.
It's still imports. But then, we were living with this situation for some years back. And as I said earlier, we were not experiencing this drastic depreciation.
Okay.
As we are experiencing.
Until the foreigners came in.
Yes.
Let me go back to
Samuel. As we are experiencing now. Yes.
Okay. Permit me to go back to Samuel. And Samuel, we'll deal with this one. But I want us to stay on the local terrain. I mean, in terms of these matters. what are there things we can pinpoint as the causes of these issues? Because really, now Mr. Kwabwa mentioned long-term and short-term, critical. He thinks we should concentrate on the long term. But of course, I'm sure you agree that the short term is also important. Because if it rolls over to 1.9, rolls over to 2.0, etc., whilst we are now putting in place capital that will take a long time for us to fix industries and all of that, then what happens? So at this time, are you satisfied with the Bank of Ghana's approach, talking about policy rates and percentages, talking about mopping up excess liquidity and all that? Are you happy with those? And if you are not, what should we do in addition to those?
Yes, let me start answering your question by somehow addressing some of the issue to do with the import thing. Let me say that quickly. It is true that our economy has opened. We should not lose facts that now we are an oil-producing economy.
Yeah.
And most of these companies that are coming into the oil sector are doing exploration. And you should understand that with exploration, you need a lot of machinery, capital-intensive project.
Sure.
And don't forget that the machines are imported into the country. And whether the money is coming as an FDI, it comes into the country, it stays into our reserves. But when these companies need extra machinery, they would definitely fall on our local currency, on our dollar reserve, to be able to import these machines. Most of these oil companies that are operating in our country are importing most of the things that they use to do their exploration and their drilling and all that. So we should understand that that could also be a factor for driving the higher depreciation.
Between the 2011 and 2012 issue that we are talking about.
That's it, because now our economy has moved from that stage of only producing cocoa and gold to now merging into an oil-producing economy now. So
black gold.
Black gold. So you see that the dynamics will change. Our import levels will change. Our balance of payment will change. You know, so it is very important that we note that difference and not shift all the attention or all the blame, perhaps, to the retail sector. The real sectors of the economy will be affected, will be affected by this. So therefore, we should understand that. But going to the fact of the reasons for the depreciation, it is true that demand and supply is the first principle, first key principle. Of depreciation when depreciation happens in your economy, in any economy. Because when you have higher demand for the greenback, for the US dollar, and then the supply cannot meet it, you would definitely have people going behind to give some prices that will influence you to perhaps deal with them. And basically, that could be the reason, or that is the reason, underlying reason, the first factor that we'll look at that is perhaps happening in this country of ours. And because the demand is high and the supply is virtually not there, that is how come the central bank quickly had to increase the prime rate, because certainly it has to come in with some monetary policy to save the situation. They have been pumping in a lot of dollars. I mean, if you look at how much dollars the central bank has pumped in the first quarter of the year, it is quite significant.
How come we don't ordinarily see the result?
Yes.
Is the question many will be asking.
It is. I'm going to come out with the factors.
Right.
Look, we have shifted focus from dealing with and focusing our attention to the Asian world. Okay, most Ghanaians are now trading with Asia, but unfortunately, we do not have banks. Our banks working directly or having close relationship with most of these Asian traders, or that are our local traders. For example, Guta want to would trade with. So you have so much pressure because they will always want to accept the hard physical cash. You know, that is one key thing.
Are you suggesting that because the cedi is not an international currency, so to speak, it's not because the cedi is an internationally recognized currency, but it's not an international currency.
You can trade.
Yes,
you can trade.
I mean,
yeah, you can trade.
If
a
I
cedi.
have, no matter how much the dollars CDs I have in my pocket, it's of no value in Washington DC.
I was so excited when I heard that the yuan, the Chinese currency, was going to be opened and traded.
Okay.
You know, so that the traders could somehow change their currencies into yuan.
That's the power of numbers.
That's
right. There are
right.
billions of people.
That's right. And interestingly, that is where most of our traders are now tilting towards. I mean, they are going to the Asians now to start trading with them.
But somewhat, are you able to tell us now, I mean, in a more direct way, whether, and you've given us a good explanation, I like that. But so the policy central bank put in place, the two, are you satisfied that they resolve the matter? They are the best at this time, or they should have done something else? Because that was my original question.
Yes, I mean, basically, to restore the cedi confidence, it is via only higher interest rate, raising your interest rates. But if you look at examples in Kenya, if you look at examples in Uganda, Nigeria, they have done that. And it actually did not work. Let me give you a typical example.
And the theory sometimes don't
sometimes that's right.
Absolutely.
Yes. Because let me state that just as the central bank upped their prime rate, some banks, I don't want to mention their names, some banks are quite not too sure whether they will increase their rates. They were considering, maintaining their rates, so it goes a long way to really gives us room to rather be worried that is this going to solve the problems
and what's your
for
response
us?
to that?
I think that somehow, somewhere, it's.
I seem to put you on the spot.
Yes,
yeah.
I mean,
but that's
basically,
here, really.
basically, the point is, I think that the central bank knows exactly what it is doing. They sit there, they look at the pulse, they look at our forest reserve, and see that hey, we have about 4 to 5 months, let's say hypothetically 5 months import cover. If we use our reserve to shore up the value of the cedi all this while, in the next few months, we will go out of forex reserve.
But my journal online actually reports that Governor Ms. Arthur is blaming the depreciation on actions of speculators and foreign exchange traders.
That is also one of the factors I believe that it could also trigger this whole situation.
Is the Bank of Ghana helpless in such a situation?
Yes. In fact, there are some. The Bank of Ghana. I mean, look, whatever is happening lies in the domain of the Bank of Ghana to be able to scrutinize and then monitor the situation and take up those people who are doing this and take them to book.
Okay.
You see, it is their responsibility. It is their responsibility, and nobody, no institution in this economy can do that.
Okay. Let me take a quick commercial break, and when I come back, George, I'll begin the next segment with you.
Okay.
And I'll be looking basically for you what we can do to turn this around. And do you believe in the fear that we will hit 2.0 to $1 in the next few months? Benjamin in Sunyani says, I want to know if the depreciation of the cedi has any linkage to inflation, because government keeps saying that inflation is low. I don't know if we are able to address this question in a minute. Is it possible?
Yes, I can.
In 60 seconds.
Yes, certainly yes. I mean, this basically the increase in the prime rate is also to help check the inflationary rates. That is, but of course you should understand that when exchange rate goes up, it also has its long-term effect on inflation, because certainly the importers will pass on the cost of the rate of depreciation.
So for him, he keeps hearing inflation is down. Why is it that things are rising?
That is where some of us do sometimes wonder what is going on, because in this instance,
as in what, you don't trust the figures?
No. I am not disputing the figures in any way, but sometimes you want to believe that what is really happening. But of course, it might not even have its immediate effect on the inflation. It might have its long-term effect on inflation.
All right.
Yes, that is if traders and importers do not pass on, and manufacturers do not pass on the cost,
which is impossible
to consumers.
Okay,
then you will not have it.
Aliyu Nashaman says that the management of the financial sector is very, very poor. That's Ali's view. But George, of course, as I said before we went on the break, that I'll take. Are you afraid we are heading towards 2.0 this year? And again, also, what do you make of what we can do to turn around the scale?
Thank you very much. By getting to 2.8 is possible.
2.0?
2.0 is possible. I'm saying this because, you know, I earlier mentioned about the invasion of the foreign traders or the retail traders in the country.
Right.
Let's go by this analysis in terms of our interest rates. You know, when these foreigners are coming in, their interest rate regime is between 0 to maximum 5%. And in our country here, it starts from 25 to 35%. And even now that the policy rate has even gone up, the tendency is that the interest rate is going to be increased. You see? And when we are increasing the interest rate, and these foreigners are also pegging their loan rates, low interest rate at that 5%, what are we doing to our economy? It means that these people could bring in a lot of items considering their interest rate, considering the interest rate,
right,
in which Ghana cannot, or Ghana importer cannot compete with them. They have the comparative advantage in such a way that when they bring in, and it's by 5%, and let's take note, most of these foreigners are manufacturers' representatives, representing manufacturers out there. Just get there, get a shop, get a wholesale, and prepare to bring in the goods. Any amount of good that you want, you are prepared to bring it into it. So, you know, I said an example that assuming if they are bringing about 300,000, 400,000 containers in a year, look at the quantum. Look at the indigenous quantum of import that he could bring in a whole year. And so after sales, all of us are going to the same exchange market. See, we are all going there. And so the foreigner who is retailing, who has brought in more containers into the country, is going to take in more. And even if the currency is even at the rate that we are talking about it now, because of the demand and supply issue that Sami raised, automatically the supply cannot meet the demands. So what happens? The commodity becomes scarce on the market. And if the commodity becomes scarce on the market, what happens? Price goes up. So that is exactly what we are experiencing in terms of our operations at the moment. So like I'm saying, even if they are not going by the representatives of manufacturers, what happens is that by taking the loan and paying 5%, that person have a comparative advantage to that of the 25 to 35% in Ghana here. So even if the cedi depreciate to even 2.5 to the dollar, because of the comparative advantage of that foreigner, I mean, there's nothing that we can do, considering the chunk of imports that are brought in by these foreigners. So it's a major factor. Sometimes we keep on talking about it, but people think that, oh, it's because we want to get the foreigners out of place.
So what do you want to happen at this stage? Is it all in the hands of government? Is it absolutely within the power of government, or you think that the powers lie outside? Some form of powers lie outside.
If we are talking about level playing field, who creates that level playing field?
It must be the government.
It must be the government.
Yeah. So what do you want? What do you expect of government? I mean, coming from is it Guta? Ghana Union of Traders Association, right?
You know, sometimes
what would be if we were to sit today in a high-powered meeting with the managers of our economy? What would you tell them as a representative of your people?
Sami, before I tell them anything, at least I need to be always. I also need to be questioning them about some utterances and statements that come from their end. I was very happy when you did mention that in terms of theory, we are very expert, but when it comes into its practicality, then we are found wanting, and that's exactly what we are confronted with at the moment. Always we hear, statement coming from BOG government that cocoa prices, gold, foreign direct investment have come in so much. At least we have a lot to tell our citizens. And lately we have gotten we've been able to explore oil. And so to us, as the business community, who actually don't get to know the nitty-gritties of what, or the technicalities that the BOG is telling us. Right. To some of us, we believe that, government is telling us that once the prices of gold, cocoa, oil, and more foreign direct investment have come into the country. For me, it's just like always a child thinking that the father always have money. So once you tell me this, I believe that, once the government have come to tell me this, because you are the managers of the economy, so whatever you come to tell me is what I have to take.
Okay, but now what would you tell them?
I will tell them that, then why are we talking about all these things? They should come and tell us the real situation on the ground. Because we are getting all this, and we are being told that still the cedi is depreciating at such a level. And Sami, the other part of it also lies on the panic buying. Because now people think that, if I even have a treasury bill, fixed deposit accounts lying at the bank, and I believe that by forecasting, if I forecast and believe that, by the next 2 months or the next month I'm going to get about 2 cedis on each cedi that I change or dollar that I change, why not? And so in this situation, we experience the kind of panic buying that we are having at the moment.
So people are actually going in for dollars.
Going for dollars.
Accounts
in any case, they are not using the dollars for anything. They are not using it for import, but they are putting it down.
It's an investment.
It's an investment for them. You see, and so to some,
absolutely,
so to some of us, when we are talking about the private sector tapping the infrastructure development, and when we talk about infrastructures, it is a government who puts out the infrastructure for you and I to maybe tap the electricity that we are using for the air conditioners here.
Right.
You as an individual cannot do that. You see, in the same way, we believe that when the government was able to curtail or stabilize this cedi for about 10 months or a year, we believe that the magic wand that the government used in curtailing the situation could also be applied this time around.
Okay. Let me go back to Samuel, and we are getting to the very end of the show now, interestingly.
Yes.
Yes. What your immediate reactions to
Yes, Nee, I believe that it is true. My brother has said so much about what they are expecting from government. But let me quickly say that it is also very important that we work towards giving so much investor confidence now, since in the past, every election year, there is that uncertainty, political uncertainty.
A certain political analyst called it the stop-and-go style of running the Ghanaian economy.
That's right.
Where you go until it's 4 years for an election, then you stop. Because then your considerations are political.
Yes, that's right. So we will have, if these things are not really looked at, we will have a situation where every 4 years, we'll have our city suffering so much because investors who are not too sure as to our political stability will want to move away their investment to some safe havens and then wait till everything is over and then decide whether they will want to come back into the economy or not. It has its effect on our reserves, and it certainly has its effect on the local currency as well. So we should, I believe that one thing that we should state is that government should look at how they can give investor confidence and then, promote investor confidence and then also promote consumer confidence. Because indeed, when it happens like that, even the local business people sometimes, like he said, would like to hedge. They would like to keep most of their their currencies or their money in foreign currencies, and that really have that impact on the value of the cedi. But let me say that the central bank is doing quite well.
Yeah,
I mean,
those will be your final words.
Yes, I want to say that basically they have, apart from increasing the prime rate, they have also reduced the single net open position of the banks from 15% to 10%. And then the aggregate net position of the banks have also been reduced.
What does that mean?
I mean, this is just
These are all technicalities.
no, but
at the end of the day,
you know,
What does that mean?
it's the difference between the total open position, the long position, and the short position, the receivables and the payables of the banks. So the banks then will have enough reserves to be able to cushion the market.
Was that in any way supposed to help the cedi arrest the slump?
That's right,
But it hasn't happened.
No, that was contained in their last their last MPC meeting.
Okay.
So it is.
So you expect that it will begin to show
at least then now
in
the
next
banks.
quarter?
Yes, that's right. I mean now the banks will have enough foreign exchange, foreign currencies to be able to meet the demand in the market. Okay. You know, so it is okay for now. We just hope that its effect in the short to medium term
that's right.
will be felt.
We have to go. I'll give the final word to you, George. Just 30 seconds, if you may. 30 seconds, and then we're out of here.
yeah, sorry, but I was very happy you were asking my other colleague Sami that at the end of the day, the technicality is fine, but what does it translate into? Yeah. So what I would say, Sami, again, is that there are certain perceptions going on around within our operations, and people are asking questions, and the questions that people are asking from our end that is it a deliberate attempt by government or BOG? Deliberate in the same way that maybe the government want more cedis, so let me allow the cedi to fall. Maybe if I'm owing my contractors or suppliers and I can get more cedis to pay them, why not? This is the perception that is going round.
I see.
Within.
This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, but within us, that is what is going on.
Okay. All right.
Within us, because the perception is that government is allowing the cedi to fall in the event that I might get some sort of cedis to pay my creditors, my suppliers, and whatnot. So that is what is down there. But you see, let me appeal to BOG via government that traders are really suffering under this exchange rate regime, and quickly something must be done about it to avert, possible collapse of our business.
Okay.